Hello. I am very excited for this conversation tonight. There are going to be some amazing people in the room, and Men's Mental Health Month is an amazing, hello, sir, opportunity to be able to hear directly from men. And I know a lot of times in different groups I'm in with, hey, doctor. So, what's the shirt today about?
Oh, so this is my I'm a are you familiar with like college sports? No. So I do something in college sports and I have a agency and this is my logo for
Oh,
my agency.
okay.
Well, how
Okay,
are
so
you today?
but I understand sports. So what does your agency do?
It's NIL where the where college students get paid,
Oh,
how the
okay.
college students get paid for being so
Image and
I'm an NIL agent and I help them get paid.
Hello, Brother James. Hello, Rico. Hello, Walt.
Hello, how y'all doing?
Brother James,
Very
Walt with the
nervous.
fresh beard.
Yes,
What's up?
sir. Yes,
What's up,
sir.
Mr. Ball? What's up, man?
Oh man. Hey, Brother James, I sent you an email. Check your email because we still on for tomorrow at 11, right?
I already looked at it. So
Okay.
that 11 a.m. or p.m.?
AM. Yeah, I don't do
Okay.
nothing at 11 p.m.
I was like,
Okay, that'll
man,
work.
I'm be
That'll work.
sideways.
Unless you're in another country. Then,
That'll work.
There would be no way I can make that at all. I mean, Rico, you could because the time frame is different. That would help you out, but yeah,
11 is 11, no matter how you slice it. PM is PM.
Right.
I mean, so Brother James and Doctor, y'all been burning the midnight oil. Every time I looked up y'all someplace, I'm like, they gotta be. I'm like, don't be talking about when you get to me. That's not my problem.
hey, now he's the most wanted. You know what I'm saying? The newly authored, he's the most wanted.
Newly author, do tell before we get
Yeah,
into
yeah,
that.
yes, I published a book. It's been out for about almost a month and a half now, and
Okay,
it's doing really well. It's doing really well.
okay.
As a matter of fact, it came out of what we're talking about tonight. That's where it came out of.
Oh my.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm trying to follow Doctor Path, and this is gonna be part of my look my project too. So this gonna work for me in a couple of different ways.
Yeah. And he said he gonna jump in too.
Okay.
Hey, you should talk to her. She in the class now.
Yep.
Okay. She's there now.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Okay. I'm right behind you.
Yep. Tuesdays and Thursdays, you won't find me no place but studying and reading and doing the stuff I need to do.
That sounds
It'll be
good.
nothing else at all.
That sounds good.
Hello there, Mar. She calls me Mar.
Hello, how are you?
Hey, Josh.
Hey, how are
And
you?
how y'all guys doing?
Good.
Good. Yourself, sir?
Man, I'm
I'm
all
not
set.
bad for a Monday.
Yep.
Not bad at
It
all.
all runs together.
Yep.
Okay.
It
Well,
does.
I am that Go Army girl. I love some people are showing up on time, and I was like, man, I get all the men's to myself. Like,
Oh, Lord, this is special.
Hey, we saving that last box for your husband, right?
he made dinner, made sure I was good to go. He said, all right, now going up there, and somebody tried to call me, and he was like, put the phone down. I said, yes, Daddy. Okay. Well, you guys have the agenda. We're gonna go by that. I mean, we probably won't get through all those questions, but it's a hope and a dream to give a filler.
Right.
Um,
Always.
I want to tell everyone thank you for being here. Welcome to tonight's special Grieving in Silence Men, Mental Health, and Healing. My name is Tina Fornwall. For those that are new in the room, thank you for the gift. Um, and I'm the host and founder of a nonprofit called Widowhood Real Talk with Tina that is established to support the bereaved. And grief comes in a lot of different packages. It's not always just the passing of a loved one. We lose different things in this world. And The one thing that I know, men do not always get a space to talk about their grief or how things impact them and be vulnerable and transparent. And to that point, Widowhood Real Talk with Tina has a men's only grief support meeting on the second Thursday of the month. And if you're interested in knowing any of the things that we do in Widowhood, if you go to my bio, our website is there, and then you can go to events and it'll show you all the different mental health events that we do. This isn't therapy. This is real talk. It is genuine emotion, real healing. And I just want to thank all of the gentlemen for being here and being subjected to my homework that I gave them. I do want to set up some ground rules so we're all on the same page. This is a safe space. Hold on one second. There's Aaron. We honor every man's story. No comparison and no judgment. Please be respectful in the comments. The mods are on their game, and it'd be like you were saying something, then it's bye. So I can't control that. Exactly. To the barbecue. Trigger warning. And I'm wearing a Invisalign, so sometimes my mouth look like I'm saying something, but I may not, so I apologize. Trigger warning. We will discuss grief, mental health, and emotional struggles. And as much as you're comfortable in this space to share and just be transparent. I know everyone had a question, but feel free if one gentleman answered a question and you wanted to add to that. We may never get off of question number 2. I'm okay with that, but I think the goal is to have an open conversation and people that you know and people that you don't know be able to see a man have a conversation and know that it's okay. And I want to normalize that. And I know each of you want to do that too. Thank you so much. So right now we're going to, I want to save the meat for the conversation. So in the introduction, if each gentleman would please say your name, where you're joining from, and one word to describe your grief journey. And I'll start with the order in which they came into the room. So we'll go with Dr. Ball and then Walt and then just go that way if that's okay.
So tell my name and one word to describe my grief journey.
Yes, sir.
Okay. My name is Dr. Maurice Ball, and one word to describe my grief journey would be patience.
Thank you. Walt? Gentleman to the right.
I'm Walt Hustle. One word to describe my grief journey: painful.
Thank you. Sir?
Brother James, one word to describe my grief journey, I would have to say perseverance.
You, sir?
Hi, everyone. Hi, Tina. Hello, gentlemen. My name is Rico, and I know the homework assignment said, where are we today? So I was raised in Oakland. I'm in San Antonio by way of the Air Force. And one word to describe my grief, and I'm going on 3 years this August, is confused.
That is fair. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Tim. Chicago by way of Minnesota by way of Georgia.
Yeah, Minnesota.
You didn't hear me. Chicago by way of Minnesota by way of Georgia. My grief journey, I would say, right now is peaceful.
Okay. Thank you. Sir?
Hi, everyone. My name's Joshua. I'm in the Norfolk area via the Navy, originally from Washington State.
Yes.
My word is exasperating. Exasperating.
And I just want to say before we go to the next person, some of you may have seen the photos from our butterfly release ceremony. Joshua was the photo that supported that event. And he doesn't know it, but he's got another event to support in May for our gala that we're having here in Norfolk that'll come out later. So I'll be giving them the dates and information for that. And
I
you,
accept your terms.
Mar.
Oh, it's me time. Okay.
Yes, sir.
My name is Martin, and I am currently in Tampa by way of New Jersey, but really from outside the Philadelphia area. Go Eagles.
In one word, brief journey. Before you get
Devastating.
attacked, one word.
Absolutely devastating.
Fair enough.
Yep.
It's my turn. Awesome.
Yes, sir.
My name is Aaron, and I'm currently in Los Angeles right now. My word for my grief journey would be numb.
Thank you all. And Aaron, you wanted to share something. If you want to share that before we get started so people can have that information. There's a code or something you wanted to.
I'll have to send that to you after. I still have to create it for you, but it's going to be Tina. It's a code.
Okay. So before we get into the questions, any comments or anything about thank you for being here, hey Sunshine, about what we've shared so far and what you've heard between each other?
It's just a pleasure to be here with such great men on the panel.
Yes, indeed.
Amen.
Likewise.
Thank you. You know, would you guys mind if we opened up in prayer?
Not at all.
Right.
Not at all.
That'd be great.
God, I thank you for your goodness and your mercy. I ask your covering over these men, God. I ask that you protect them in their homes, not just in this conversation, in everything that they do. All of these men that have agreed to be in this conversation, God, have a heart of a servant, have a heart to help someone, have a heart to be there for people in their difficult times. So, God, I thank you for them allowing themselves to be here in this conversation and to support what is being done here. And I pray blessings into their life. In the name of your son, Yeshua Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I don't always start with live, but I felt like that's what needed to happen for this right here. So I wanted to go with that. Dr. Maurice, you are first out the gate, sir. What loss or moment in your life first introduced you to deep grief?
When I lost my dad, that was 1995. I was a young guy, and he was unalived on our front porch, and it took me to a really dark place because he had shielded me from like my aunties and my uncles passing, so he kind of kept me out of the loop of those things. So when he passed, it was me, so I had to deal with all the things that came with that, and I didn't know I was still learning how to tie my shoes, and so it was a very hard lesson that I had to learn, and that loss took me to the depths of depression. It took me to the depths of the dark side, and I tell everybody I know how to navigate in the dark because it took me to that darkness, and I got real comfortable at navigating in the dark, and it took a long time for me to heal out of that process. And so by the time my mom passed 10 years later, I was able to handle that a whole lot better. One, because I was grounded spiritually. I didn't have no spiritual grounding when my dad passed, so I just did whatever I did to self-medicate. And a lot of that stuff was toxic. It was like playing Russian roulette. I pretty much was playing Russian roulette for the most part. And by the time my mom passed, I had a real good solid foundation. So it didn't take me to the dark side like my dad did.
Thank you. Thank you so much. These are some heavy answers, and I don't take it lightly for being willing to share. Rico, how did you initially react to your loss, emotionally, physically, or mentally? And if you want to expound, obviously, what the loss is, that's part of that question too, sir.
Tina, when I first read the question, I was initially thinking about when my wife passed. But I had to back up a little. because the grief really started from the first time we heard that word cancer.
Right.
And then when it progressed and I became her caregiver, I was having a difficult time balancing staying positive, trying to be the strength, trying to be the communicator for everyone. All the while, I was scared. I was completely scared because I didn't know what was ahead of us and what was in front of us. And when she finally passed, which is going to be 3 years this August, I was completely devastated. I met my wife in the Air Force. She was 20. I was 24. I'm about to be 61. So I've known her my whole life. She was everything for me. Nobody knew me like she did. So I often say to myself, I wish I was in a better place, but I have to reflect back what it was last year, 2 years ago, and when it initially happened. And I think I'm progressing, but there are days that I just can't move. There are days that I still feel numb, and I'm doing everything that people say. I'm trying. I pray. I reach out. It's just, when did it initially start? I don't know. I honestly don't know, other than on that day, I was numb. I couldn't move. And what's interesting isn't my own self-reflection. What's interesting is hearing it from my kids and hearing it from others as they're replaying. Here I thought I was doing well, and yet they say things like, "Oh, we lost you, Dad. There were times we didn't know where you were at." And the reason why I left California is I had to come to a place where my kids were, where my grandkids were, because in California, I was by myself and I didn't like the quiet time. The silence was deafening, and I was in a very dark place. And moving to Texas, being here, I believe literally saved my life. So I'm going to stop there.
Thank you. Anybody want to share something? I don't want to move forward too quickly.
I just want to encourage you, and for those who are experiencing, the loss is hard, no matter how it is or whoever it is. It's still hard, and I just want to encourage everybody to just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Just keep put one foot in front of the other. The moment you stop doing that and trying to, and you get stagnant, that's when things start to spiral. So just get up and do something. Keep put one foot in front of the other, and trust. And this is the hard thing. You said you pray. Trust that God is able, because that's where I was. I'm telling you, and the only person that can relieve that grief when it hit me was me going and just praying to God to guard my heart and heal my heart. So never give up on that portion of your journey.
I will also say, Rico, I know if we talk about this a lot, everybody's journey is different. But one common denominator that I have seen, that when you are isolated, that being in community, that community for you was family or being with people or being in a safe space, is very powerful. There may be moments in this journey where we have to peel back because we need time alone. But if we live in that isolation, I think there's a lot of destruction that happens to us personally and in the process of trying to continue to live. That's what I found, me personally, and from hundreds of people that I've spoken with in this process. So that was an amazing step to say I need to be someplace else and to make. I mean, you literally relocated from California to Texas, packed up, did all the other different things, and yeah, it did save your life because that was a great step. And doing this journey of grief, because people keep it inside and don't put it out, we're kind of stepping through things in an uncharted territory, and we're making decisions that we hope are good and we reflect back on them. But you can certainly look at that and see that was a good decision.
And left my job. So I just want to.
Yes.
So I
No,
was.
I think saying it's a job is kind of minimal compared to a foundation that you started and everything else.
Yeah, but I was the president and CEO of a nonprofit in San Francisco and was doing extremely well. And I felt like a fraud. I was putting up this front as I'm working, and then I was going home and falling apart, and I couldn't do it any longer. So I went to my board. So I didn't only just relocate. I didn't just leave California. I walked away from a career that I had been in 30 years. But I had to put that emphasis on my own life and where I needed to move forward.
Thank you. Brother James,
Yes.
looking back, what surprised you most about how grief showed up in your life?
Just looking back, man, this is very humbling. Rico, I love you, brother. How young I was when I first found out some things. I was raised by an aunt and uncle whom at a young age I thought was my biological parents. And it wasn't until my biological father passed away. That's when I found out that the people that raised me was not my actual parents. And I had I had two other brothers and a father and a mother that I never met because she passed away when I was 4 months old. As a child growing up, I was raised so well, by my grandmother, my aunt and uncle, till I didn't think about it. And even when it was revealed to me at the time, it was hard for me to grieve over someone I didn't know, because I only remember meeting him one time, and so I was real young. So as I got older, I reached out to two of my brothers, never got a chance to really connect with them, and then both of them end up passing away. So I didn't realize, Dr. Ball, that how it affected me until I got older. And one of the things that I realized was I was suppressing it, and because I really didn't want to talk about it. I always said it didn't bother me, but it actually did. It actually did because, I never knew her. I remember meeting my father one time and never met my mom. And I'm going to be transparent. For a long time, I was angry with God for a long time. And because I would see other young men with their fathers, and even though there was a man in our house, still that was, but he ended up taking the place. He ended up filling that void, but it still sat in the back of my mind. How was my biological father? What kind of man was he? What made him cry? What made him angry? My mother, like I said, I never met her. She passed away when I was 4 months old, from the story that I got, that it came down to either she was going to pass or I was going to pass. But she passed like 4 months after I was born. So I never got a chance to really know them. And like I said, I didn't realize, like I said, I suppressed it. I didn't realize that, how it affected me. And like I said, until I got older, and so I went through all the tears and everything, and I had a good support system around me. I really did, and the only reason why I had that good support system around me because I didn't like what was on me. I didn't like it. I was living half of a man, and I'm the kind of person where when something's on me, I got to get it off me. And I couldn't really, and I think about this, I was like 9, 10 years old when I found out about this. And then I get all the way into my 40s, and get married and everything. And this stuff is still on me because I never dealt with it, you know? And the question was always to God, why? Why? Because I never got that answer. And like I said, as a man, I didn't realize it bothered me. I didn't realize it until I really sat down and thought about it, and here come the tears again. But like I said, I had a great support system because I was intentional and because I wanted answers so bad to the point where I would go and I would ask other men certain questions because I knew something wasn't right with me, and come to find out, I was grieving. I was still grieving over something that I never dealt with. And for a while, I felt like just being in the company of the wrong people. Grief is not grief is not masculine. Grief is not being a man. And I believed that stuff for a long time until I started educating myself. So it hit me early. It hit me early, and the fact that I did not get a chance to even meet or even talk. The last time I remember my two older brothers, I was like 7 years old, and I was out playing, and someone came down. One of my friends came down and said, "Your brothers is at your mom, at your house." So I ran down there, and it was coming out the door, and they said, "We'll be back," and they never came back. And so both of them end up passing away. I was in Florida before my oldest brother passed away, and we talked. And he was like, "I don't want you to see me like this." And I was like, "Just come over." He never did come over, And so, it's just all of that. And it's kind of like Dr. Ball situation, but it was my grandmother. When my grandmother passed away, I still, even to this day, I was like 8th grade, and I believe that part of me died with her. I still have not gotten over that. That was, even though I understand the process of life, we come and we go, but my grandmother and I was very, very close. And I still to this day think about it, So just the thing I'm surprised the most is how it showed up at such a young age and how I actually dealt with it and how long it took me to actually admit that, hey, man, you're hurting, because I was taught wrong. I would admit I was angry, but I would never admit I was hurt, and that was a problem. And so once I started to admit that, that's when, I began to understand the process. That's when I began, like I said, I got around a lot of men from all different backgrounds, and we just had conversations. And that's what really lifted it off me because it was affecting me in being a husband and being a father. And so I had to get it off me. So that's probably the biggest thing.
Thank you, Brother James. I want to circle back to two things that you said that I want to just put some emphasis on. Thank you for saying that you were mad at God.
Mm-hmm.
People feel as if they cannot articulate that, but that is a deep sense of how oftentimes people feel. But when we're not honest with something, we don't generally have the capacity to manage it and deal with it and move forward from it. So being able to articulate and say that out loud, you almost feel like, oh, I can't believe I said that, but it's bubbling up inside like a pressure cooker that needs to pop. And saying it, I think, puts us in a space where now we can be honest with God and deal with that. And the idea, so many people, so many men are taught that grief is not masculine, that those emotions you don't get to share or expose and do that. And we are debunking that and normalizing that. And thank you for bringing those 2 points up, sir.
And you know what? The amazing thing about that was, it's kind of like what Dr. Ball said. I start wilding out. And in my mind, that was me getting back at God because I wouldn't do what he said. And I'm just being honest. So I would go out there not realizing I was doing it to myself, but it's amazing. And this is why when anybody talks about the mercy of God, God definitely showed me mercy because I felt like whatever I was out there doing, I knew God didn't want me to do, but I did it anyway. So it was like I'm punishing God. But that was my mindset at that time.
Hey, brother James. Hey, did you ever feel like during those times you're like, God doesn't care about me, so why do I care about like His
Yep.
word and everything like that?
Yep.
And that's how I felt. And I came to one conclusion a couple years ago when my divorce started. I was like, God, why me? Why do you? It's like years after years after years, all this craziness. But then I asked myself one question: It's not why is God doing this to me? Why am I betraying the word of God? And why am I not doing what I should be doing? One of the part, like you touched on, is we weren't taught that, especially growing up in the 80s. For me, you weren't taught that. You were just taught like go through it, go through it, go through it, and
Yep.
so.
Yeah, Brother James, I want to share something too. I really appreciate you sharing that about that because when my mom passed in 2012, for 8 years after that, I didn't realize I was mad at God up until 2021. And for the 8 years that I was just numb in the state of depression and growing back into and just allowing myself to feel that pain, it circled me back to myself and it circled me back to God. Like I had to reface God again and talk to God and have a conversation with God about my mom. And it was one of the biggest breakthroughs for me because I through the 8 years, even moments when I tried to pray, it felt like He wasn't listening. God wasn't listening.
All right. Yep.
But during that time, it was more of me closing that off, and I felt like I was just praying to the air and nothing. And I remember in my car, a lot of times I was just screaming in the car, but the car whenever it beat hit me again, I didn't want to feel it.
Right.
But when I thought I could do it all by myself, the entire time trying to regain my emotions, or just feel my pain, my hurt, as I connected with myself again, I connected with God again. It was so interesting. And it put the walls back down. And then I had like a real conversation as if God was just sitting next to me. And I was mad at Him. I told Him, oh God, I'm mad at you. Why would you take? Why would you take my mom?
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
It's been about 12 years, and it'll always feel like yesterday.
Yep.
Thank you. Well, you wanted to share something?
Yeah, something you made me think about when Brother James made the comment about being upset with God. And when you gave him credit saying, thank you for saying that, I can recall I wasn't necessarily upset, but I questioned. And then coming from where I came from, oh no, you never question God. You don't do this. So I stopped questioning. And it left me with a void, a lot of unanswered questions because the only one that had the answers was God. So I tell anybody listening, throw that out. There is nothing wrong with you asking God questions because He's the only one that's going to give you the true answers that you need. Myself, my brother Maurice, my brother James, Mary Jane, everyone on this panel, we can give you all the examples of what we went through. We can tell you we understand exactly what you're going through. And a lot of times we do. We really do. We've dealt with this grief. But if you want true answers of why, what, how to cope, where you're going to get strength from, is it going to be okay? God is the only one that can answer those questions. And don't you dare be afraid to ask Him why.
And
But
He tells
just be
us.
prepared for the answer that He gives.
Absolutely. And He tells us, come, let us reason.
Yep.
He says, come and let us reason together. And He gives us the opportunity and the space to be able to do that. He's the creator of the universe. He knows everything about you. He knows when your hair come out, you just think it's just the hair that fell out. He knows that that's hair number 5,674. So he knows the intricate details about you. He knows your whole situation. So why not go to the God of the universe? And like Walt said, You may not like the answer, but it's the answer that God will give you to give you peace.
Absolutely.
And there was a comment, and I just want to say that I'm gonna land my plane. There was somebody in the Curtis, I think he's in here. In the comments, he said he's mad at God, and if anybody's right now mad at God, guess what? It's okay. God's okay with you being mad at Him. It's not offending Him in any way, shape, form, or fashion because it's a human emotion. He created us as human beings to have human emotions, and one of the human emotions is anger. So it's okay for you to be angry at God, but at the end of the day, He's the source of your air. So you have to get it right at some point. Like in your time, you have to get it right. But just know that when you're ready, like Walt said, you just crawl up in His lap and ask the question and let Him reveal it to you.
That's right.
Yes, indeed. They say, if your car breaks down, the best person to take it to is the one that made it. So you take it to you take your Ford to a Ford dealership. You take I have a Corvette. I take my Corvette to a Corvette place or whatever. If your appliance breaks down, you take it to the one that made that. So when you were broke down, you take it to your creator and the one that made you. When my wife passed, after I did her celebration of life, I hit the road in my conversion van. And because when she hit hospice, I said, well, what do you want to do in terms of burial and everything? We never talked about that because you never wanted to. And she said, I don't care. What do you want to do? I was like, honey, I want to get you cremated and take your ashes all the places across the country that we were supposed to go. And she said, do it. So that's what I did. And I jumped in my conversion van and hit the road for a month and 3 days, went all the way across the country, 9,000 miles back and forth, and slept at rest stops and everything. And it was just me, her, and God. And I never in my life, and I'm not the spiritually deep one, I got a relationship with God, but I'm not one of those people that senses God every moment of the day or anything. But never in my life have I ever felt so carried as I did that first year. Never have I felt so. I mean, it was just like I didn't even know what was going on, but I felt carried through it all. I cried every single day, every single night. I learned how to drive 85 miles per hour with tears running down my face in a blurry. But God was there through it all, and He gave me a lot of. I said, I couldn't be mad at God because honestly, when I met my wife, I didn't deserve her. I was living trifling for the whole entire year before I met her. My resume was just not one that deserved my wife. But I was not about to take that for granted. I lived up to it. And she spoke into me so much that I just wanted to be everything. I mean, it wasn't like she was lying. She just saw the best in me, even when I was, at my lowest, and made me want to be that better man. And so on that trip, I asked God, I was like, look, just don't let my pain be in vain. That's all I ask. Don't let my pain be in vain. It's got to have purpose and everything. And on the trip, He gave me a lot of downloads, a lot of revelations, and a lot of things that were not just for me. I've been using them to help others in their grief along the way. Even while I was on the trip, I mean, I remember guilt tried to hit me in the middle of the night. Like there's something else I could have done or whatever. And there wasn't. I mean, it was a ridiculous thing. So I entertained it for about 33 seconds. And then I said, that's ridiculous. But I thought of somebody else, and her and her husband were brother and sister to us. And she lost her husband 3 months earlier. And so I texted her at 1 o'clock in the morning, and I said, guilt has a funny way of showing up places it doesn't belong. I was like, there is absolutely nothing you and I could have done to save Tanya and Sean. And, she texted me back because, when you're in that grief, you're not sleeping. And she's like, I really need to hear that right now. And so, I understood, even early on, God was using me, and just, I blanked everybody out. And they're like, you're not taking anybody on the trip with you? I was like, no, because I'd kicked them out before I even got out of Jersey. And so, like I said, my anger wasn't towards God at the time. In younger years, my anger was there because I was adopted at 2 months old and never really, I had identity issues all throughout. And so I was strange. I was awkward, and I was kind of, even though I had friends and everything, they couldn't be there for me. And so I was cursing God mostly through my teenage years and whatnot. But he brought me through a lot and allowed me to see things that I brought me through, and especially the stupid things I would do. And I mean, just like 3 seconds ago, stupid things I would do. So, I definitely understand people's anger towards God. I just know, even my anger, whatever, I just know without him, I can't imagine going through this walk without him carrying me and being there for me like nobody else can, because no matter the closest person to me still doesn't know everything like he does.
Wow. All I want to say is, take it back to the creator was the mic drop. I'm like, what? The Corvette? I was still trying to process that. I was like,
I was a contractor, retired, but I was a contractor. So my mentality is always, when something's wrong, fix it. I knew I couldn't fix this, but I knew who could. And so I handle the things I can handle, but the things I can't handle, I have people around me that are helpful, but all in all, no, God got me through this. So
I'm going to ask an all question that was not on the homework. As men, do you feel like you need to fix it? And how much of your inability to fix something is part of your grief journey? And anybody or all?
Absolutely. As a man, we're drilled at a young age as a man. We provide, we protect, we prevent. We do these things. So when the title man is given to us or earned, the responsibility that normally comes with that title, we tend to want to live it and fulfill it to the best degree possible. So when we're unable to protect, when we're unable to provide, it hits different.
Yeah.
And a lot of people can say, "Oh no, don't worry about it." And then the bigger issue is, and I use my brother right next to me, Maurice, my brother. I feel if there's anything that I ever needed and I reached out to him, if he could do it, he would. But as a man, if I needed help, be it financially, be it whatever it may be, and I turned to him, "Hey, my family, the lights off. Here you go. Bro, I got you. Don't worry about it. Here you go." But as a man, I turn, because in the back of my mind now, my family thinking, "You couldn't keep the lights on. You had to go to Uncle Maurice." So when we deal with grief, as we're trying to tell our family it's going to be okay, when you're telling us it's going to be okay, why didn't you stop this from happening? So it definitely affects us big time, because even though we know we can't stop it, we still want to stop it.
I think that one of the things that we have to do as men is not get caught up in what the stereotype definitions that society puts on us to try to fulfill and carry everything. That is a lot of weight and a lot of pressure. And in my instance, when my dad died, I tried to carry the whole family like he was the first one. He wasn't the first one. You know what I mean? And so I'm trying to hold the whole family together because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. And I'm carrying all this weight, and I got to be strong for this person over here. Got to be strong for this person over here. And the reality is, in my weakness, that's strength. It's okay. I had to learn that the hard way. By the time my mom transitioned, I was okay. I was like, "Oh, I ain't carrying the weight of nobody. Y'all gonna have to figure this thing out for yourself," because it almost took me out when I tried to carry the weight of my whole family and the pressures of what society said and all this other stuff. So I think as we are in this panel, and as the men that are out here looking, the ones that's sitting on the porch, that it's okay not to have it figured out. It's okay to let your people to say, I don't know how this is going to play out. I don't know what this looks like. I'm figuring it out as just as you are. I might have the answers and the resolutions to a lot of stuff, and I might be able to fix everything that comes up. But this right here, I'm in the same boat, on the same row, rowing with the same paddle that you're rowing with.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah, fixing it, especially when it's a situation where you cannot fix it. I mean, and this is, when the devastation that comes with losing my wife was something I couldn't fix, and nobody else could too. And so the people that I appreciated most were the people that didn't try to fix it because they couldn't fix something they couldn't even understand.
Right.
The people, some people said, I don't know what to say. And I said, thank you, because there's absolutely nothing you can say. You just be here, and that's it. That's all you can do is just be here. Because fix it, So, no, I'm big on not trying to fix it. However, I'm also big on, faith without works is dead. I'm not big on people that say they'll pray for you or they'll pray for this and they'll pray for that when they could be the answer to the prayer. And that's what, that's what I believe in being, is not just praying for somebody, but asking God. My prayer includes, what can I do, if anything, for you? What would you have me do? Instead of just, saying, I'll pray for you and whatnot. No, it's, like telling God, okay, handle this. And then I walk away from it. No. So that I'm just big on, doing what I can and what I would be called to do.
You can't help me, was my attitude. I didn't reach out for help, not because I thought, well, I could handle it. I was so angry with everyone. I was angry with everyone. I don't want to talk to anyone. You can't help me because you don't know the pain I'm going through. You can't fathom what I'm feeling. I literally felt my heart shattering. All the while, I'm helping others. All the while, I'm there for everyone else. When it came to me, I wasn't reaching out. I started lying. People tried. They would call and say, hey, come over for dinner. Well, I've already ate. I'm okay. I'm going to be all right. Because you don't know what I'm going through. So how in the world are you going to help me? Right. I didn't want that help. I could do this. I could carry this. Leave me alone. I want to be left alone. And it wasn't until I think my kids starting using phrases like, I'm afraid. You're scaring me. I don't want to lose you.
Wow.
And that's when I realized, okay, I got to get help. But I didn't know what that looked like.
I think that's hard for especially a lot of I'm in my 40s, and in my age group we were taught like, yo, you want to be the big homie, you just got to go out there and hustle. You got to go get that job. You got to take care of it. It doesn't matter. Your mom left you, your dad left you, everyone leaves you. Just get out there and get what you want to do. You got to get society doesn't help either, because they say, hey, you got to get the fancy clothes, you get the fancy car. And as men, you don't have time, at least as perceived. We do have time, and we have to break that stigma, right? But we were taught at a young age, like, you're weak if you grieve. You're weak if you ask for help, but you just got to go do it. And then it's just festering. So it is hard. Like, we want to try to fix it because that's what we're taught, ingrained at a young age. And then you get to a point where you can't fix it. Like Mar said, you can't fix it. There's things that no one can say. No one can say and do. And then you're like, what do I do then? Who do I turn to then? And a lot of us, too, have that pride that we don't turn to God. We don't turn to our brothers. And I think, too, to caveat that, a lot of our, at least in America, right? I've been to a lot of countries, but at least in America, our American brothers, a a lot of times we don't reach out and help each other. We say, hey, this is what I did. I'm going to get myself continue to climb that ladder. But let me take 2 seconds on my time to help this young dude right here come out of his process, because I've been there and I can give him some pointers. It won't fix it, but I can like kind of point him to that point.
You know what? You know what's funny, Miss Tina?
But
I grew up in a house with a man that when it came down for him to make things happen, he always did. And I witnessed that. And to this day, he was my hero. To this day. On Father's Day, I was telling him that. He, like I said, he filled that void, and he's the one, going forward, I call my dad. It's the one that I have a relationship now. I watched him. He never complained. I never seen him get angry. But I didn't know what was going on behind the scenes, you see? And as I got older and I got my own family, I felt like I had to mimic that, And so I never took any time. So I could definitely understand what Rico, I never took any time for me because I felt like no one was listening anyway, And so when I could not fulfill that, not only did I feel like I was letting God down, but I was letting him down because I wanted to mimic what he was doing. That was my mentality, And it's amazing that I didn't come to that realization that yes, sometimes you need to sit and you need to rest. You need to realize that you can't do it all. And I didn't understand that. It was a time when my finances was hit to the point where I couldn't even get by my family gifts, and I was in a deep depression. Even though it wasn't my fault. But that was just for a time. But that's how I felt because I wasn't fulfilling the role of a son. But that was in my mind, and I really didn't grasp it well, Brother Walt, until in 2021 I went through brain surgery. And when I went through brain surgery, that time that I spent in the hospital just healing, all of these thoughts just started coming back. And I got a chance to actually rest. I got a chance to actually talk with God because I went from having the surgery in June and I wasn't completely healed until January of the following year. All of my motor skills was gone and, I couldn't really, I could look at something and say, my mind would say, pick it up, but my hands wouldn't move. And the doctor told me that I was going to go through those things. And my wife, man, I can't begin to explain how much I appreciate her, how much I love her. But I had a chance to reflect. And it hit me like, look, man, you can't do it all. He was who he was, okay? And when I told him that, that's exactly what he said to me. He said, listen, I'm already proud of you. I'm already proud of you for what you've already done. You don't have to prove anything to me. Don't ever put me in the place where God is supposed to be, And all this time, even though I heard it from him, I felt like I was supposed to do it. And I was living under these stigmas that Brother Ball was talking about. I was living under these stigmas, but it wasn't until I was able to break free. And I remember the day that I broke free. And I'm telling you guys, that was one of the greatest feelings in my life, to have all of this weight just lifted off your shoulder, because now you've come to an understanding about life. And that's where I am right now. So just like what he said earlier, I do community service all the time. I go hard for men. I go hard for men, and these stigmas that sits over us. I do my best to be a champion in that area, and it's not to neglect anyone else, but I go hard for men, and that was the reason why I did it.
Thank you, Tim. What are your thoughts?
My story is probably more different than anybody's, but at the same time, it's probably the same. I can't say I came up from humble beginnings because I think I was more prepared for how my life came out than anything else because of how everything was laid out for me. I had a sister that died before I was born. Mother passed 6 years old. brother passed 79, grandmother passed 77. Everything was in succession. So by the time the 80s came, I was wondering why or how are these things happening? Who can I talk to? So at that time, I just sat up here and I went to the church down the street. The pastor, well, he wasn't even, he was only was he my pastor. He was a very good friend of mine, and I didn't have father, mother, or anybody that I could reply to because I had cousins, and a lot of times the people that raise you sometimes aren't the best people to go to. So instead of going to them about what I was feeling, I went to him, and he said, just come in and we're going to talk about what you're going through and how you can activate this prayer inside of you to calm yourself. At the time, I didn't know that I was getting ready to have a nervous breakdown at the age of 13. Nobody knew about it. Not even my cousin. I was out now. I was out, just started crying, couldn't stop. Body was shaking. Ambulance picked me up. I woke up. Where was I at? In the hospital. Didn't remember. Then went home the next day. After all that, then life moved on. I got married to my first wife. Was married a year and a half. She passed away of her family had heart history, which she never told me about. I think that probably hit me the worst, but at the same time, I was doing a number of things in my life. So once again, I put it on the back burner, not trying to recognize it, but at the same time, was hurting so much that I couldn't really think straight. So after that, time went on, became a foster parent, landscaping. I did a lot of jobs. And I believe the reason why was because I was trying to hide a lot of grief that I was going through. A lot of men will sit up here and tell you, I'm the strongest person in the world, will be the weakest person at heart. And I've been an advocate for a lot of things in my life. I've advocated men and women, children. I was a foster parent for 17 years. And I raised them to be a better version of their self, even though they went through a lot of things that I seen in myself. And I used the experience that I had from the teachings that I had in life to help build them to be the better person. So my only wish for everybody is make sure that you know yourself to be peaceful and bring all your truths to your heart.
Wow.
Thank you.
Can I share real quick, Tina? Is that okay?
Oh,
So at 17, when my mom passed, my dad, he took it to heart, of course, right? He was married with her for 23 years, I believe. And he completely shut off for maybe all the way up until 5 years ago. And at that time, my older brother, he was in the army, and my younger brother was with me, and we were living together. But when my mom passed, we ended up just moving state to state. My dad didn't really know what to do, and I always like to say out loud, now that I'm starting to forgive more, I started forgiving more like 4 years ago, that our parents did the best they could with what they knew. And we went into survival mode right there and tried to just keep a roof over our head. But during that time, he was just in a deep state of depression, and my brother was too. I was also. But when we're talking about fixing right now, I realized as all of you are sharing that from 17 all the way up until 2020. I don't know, I can't do the math right now. But while they're in their state of depression and numbness, I was trying to fix them the whole time, trying to keep the family together the entire time. And then deep down inside, as I was trying to do that, I was just lonely, isolated in my own pain, trying to numb it. And then in 2020, when I had this huge revelation, I realized all the fixing that I was trying to do, I was trying to save my mom and each person, my brother, and my dad, all the clients that I worked with, trying to save my mom and each one. And I realized when I couldn't fix something, I was left with all of the deep emotions of grief, the pain, the anger there. So when there was nothing left to fix or nothing left to save, it was talking to God and saving myself. I was just left and I got hit hard with those emotions. And the moments where I have nothing else to fix or I feel like I can't fix anything, then failure hits in. And I thought it was failure, but deep down inside, when I went through failure, it was just facing the grief about my mom's passing. And I realized that I can't save anyone if I'm not taking care of myself or if I'm not trying to save myself. Until I started doing that and I had that conversation with God, I uplifted myself. And God uses how I feel and the love that I feel and the compassion that I feel now to uplift others without me having to lift the finger. And that was the moment I realized that I don't need to save or fix anymore. It's just having a close relationship with God where He can speak to me and talk with me and help me feel through my emotions so that way I can just be a light for others.
Thank you. Thank you all. Anything else before I move to the next question? Okay. I'm glad you check your hair, Joshua. It's your question.
I was saying nothing more.
Okay. Do you feel pressure to be strong or hide your emotions while you are grieving?
I'm going to say absolutely yes. I'm trying to do a better job in the last probably 7 years of doing that. But I will say there's probably more than 2 points why, right? Not just to start off with from where that wasn't rooted from is from my father telling me every time, like, if I cried, you were weak and you get hit with a belt and fill in the block with whatever name and you weren't a man, right? And then pair that with certain people later in life having the same attitude. And then for some of you who don't know, I've been in the Navy. I'm active duty for 19 years, right? When I first came in the Navy, that was the whole attitude too, is like if you're a leader, you just get the things done. You don't have time to fix yourself. You don't have time to do that. So you try to hide that. You try to mask that because then for me as a man, I was taught I got to do better than my dad. My dad was not a good man at all. I'm not mad at him. I think that he may have done the best he can with what he was dealt and what he was taught. And I don't hold that against him for all the wrongs that he did, right? So now I try to do better than that. But then I end up masking stuff because I didn't know how to deal with that. I just was like, got to be tough. You know what? Once my grandmother died, on deployment. Then a year later, my grandfather died on deployment. And then a year later, my best friend died on deployment. And then the next year, my mom died. My second best friend died. And my wife almost died with COVID. And it was just all this stuff. And I was like, I have to be the savior. I had to fix it all like we talked about. And it got to a point I couldn't do it. And I couldn't even hide the mask anymore. I was just numb. And I just wanted to give up, and that's where I got to the point of like, God, like I was driving a car, I think probably a couple weeks after deployment came back in 2022 when all this stuff happened. I'm just like, why? I pulled over and I'm like screaming, grabbing the steering wheel, like I can't be strong anymore, but I don't know how. I have 5 kids and I have to do this. I'm a leader in the military. I have to do this. And I was just devastated with I think all that grief, all those years from little from a child to a teenage to a young adult to a man just finally hit, and you're just at that breaking point. You're like, God, why? Why are we going through this? And then I started to reflect back on one of my prior mentors. He's like, listen, man, I was a young guy and I didn't take it to heart till then. He goes, listen, you got to ask yourself, can you change this? If the answer is yes, change it. If the answer is no, put it to God, put it to whatever you believe in, because at the end of the day, if you can't change it and you stress over it, now it's still not changed. And now you're stressed over about it. Now you're going to bring it home. You're going to bring it to your kids, your wife, your job, or whatever you're trying to do. And once I really started to grasp that, it really opened up, and just bringing, and I guess really bringing it to God. Because at that point, I was a disciple of God probably that was 2022, 4 years. And I didn't really understand of bringing that to God and asking my brothers and sisters, like in the community, in the Navy or in my church community, like, hey, I can't do this by myself. Please help me. And that was the first time I was like, I got to put pride away and really ask, because we did, even up until a few years ago, I'm still trying to hide certain things. I catch myself. And I do think that, at least for me, I don't know about anyone else, I was ingrained to hide that, and still I feel that creeping up every once in a while. And for me, that's why I honestly have taken to photography and poetry and try to do this TikTok to help other people. Like, you're not alone. Guess what? At your worst time, if it was all you could muster was going to the mailbox and getting that bill you got to pay, that's still a couple feet forward. Like I think Dr. Ball said earlier, like, keep it moving forward. An inch forward is still forward progress. And that's all I try. So thank you.
Wow. You know what? When I hear the stories, it's like I said earlier, it's a humbling experience, because it opens my mind up to things I don't know. When you think you have things figured out, and then you hear from other people, like in this situation here, hearing from other men about the pressure that we under to perform. Wasn't too long ago, I was on live with Dr. Ball and his wife, and Dr. Ball talked about safe space. I didn't know what that was. I didn't. And then after we got off live, he called me, and I explained it to him, and like that, he explained it. And it was like, as they say, eureka, because I didn't know at the time. I didn't understand that. I was like, hey, God is my safe space, and I don't know if that was just something that I was just glossing over, but it was like, I have a wife and 2 daughters, so I gotta be him, and so like I said, in just listening to other people, I'm still growing, I'm still developing, I still stand firm on things that I believe in, because I am, like I said, I go hard for men, that we can get these stigmas off, so we can stop living a limited life, and we can go on live our lives to the fullest. But we all hurt. We all go through pain. And Dr. Ball, he'll take us, he and I, we on live together a lot, And so, but that's just who I am, because, I love people. I love my brothers, regardless of where you're from, where you've been, what's your background, what's your race. It doesn't matter. You suffer just like I suffer. We all go through, and we have loved ones that suffer with us, So, meeting Brother Walt and just hearing him talk, and some of the things that he carries, it makes me look back at myself and say, wait a minute, you really don't have a grip on this yet, because there's layers to this stuff. And until you start hearing from other people, you really don't know. It's one thing to say, I got this for me. But what about the man next to you that's struggling, that needs you to understand where he's at right now, because he reached out to you for help, but you're on your high horse, and so you can't reach back and you can't help him, and so that is the process that I went through, and I'm still going through it. And I am a avid reader. I read all the time, and I think that's just being on this panel is definitely a blessing. And Miss Tina, I can't thank you enough.
Thank you.
To hear Brother James say that, And I was gonna say something to Josh. Josh, I commend you. When you were able just now to identify and come out and say, hey, my father, he didn't do the best things, he didn't do this. But right after that, you let it be known, but I'm not mad at him. I forgive him. That was possibly the best he could have done. A lot of times, by us giving that grace to others, it opens up us to receive a lot more grace. Because how can we sit here and point so many fingers at, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, you were this type of person, not realizing it could be someone, a neighbor, a child, a spouse, a friend, a boss, that's looking and saying, Walt, you're absolutely horrible.
Yep.
And I'm doing the absolute best that I can. So when we give that grace like you just did, Josh, that opens up so much room for you to receive grace on anything that someone else may think you fall short of. So I salute you on that.
Yep.
Because like Brother James just said, it's so many layers. And when it comes to this grief thing, I'm starting to learn it more and more. The more we talk about it, hearing from different people, and it's like a revelation. It's starting to reveal itself, and so much to be like, as we pull this thing back like an onion, we're starting to really get to the, hey, if I do this, it opens up this.
Yep.
If I do that, it shuts off this. And it just continue. People, please just be mindful of that, be graceful to others, and understand sometimes as parents, husbands, brothers, friends, whoever, we fall short, and it's not because we're doing it deliberately. Sometimes we're doing the absolute best we can.
Best you can.
And on our best day,
Yeah.
we done hit all the marks, we hit all the points, we hit all the cylinders, we done did all the stuff. On our best day, he still says that we ain't nothing but filthy rags. But so let's celebrate the things that we do, but just know that God is always requiring us to be the conduit in the earth for him. And on our best day, it still is not, we don't get the credit. And I would say, Miss Tina, I thank you for inviting me to this panel with all these amazing men who are pillars in their circles. Regardless of how you feel about yourself, you are a pillar of light in the circle that you're in. Somebody is drawing life from you being in their life. And so I honor and respect y'all, and to be able to come and sit on this panel and share some of your most darkest feelings and emotions without thinking that somebody's going to weaponize it. It is liberating for me. It is liberating for the guys that I read through it, as I'm reading through the comments, and even the ones that's sitting on the porch that's being healed and touched, because they're seeing men sit in these boxes and be vulnerable.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. Martin. This is Martin. What message about masculinity did you grow up with, and how did that affect how you grieve?
Like I said before, I was adopted at 2 months old, so there wasn't any nature. It was all nurture for the most part. But the kind of men God put around me, including my dad, were those who had a servant's heart, those who were givers, not just talking the talk, but walking the walk. And like I said, the kind that tried to be answers to prayers, not just praying and leaving it at that. So, my dad was a reverend. He didn't have a church when they adopted me. He basically worked for American Baptist Ministries, and I didn't know what that meant growing up and everything. All I know is he wrote books, and he had his PhD in theology from Berkeley, and whatever else. But really, it was the kind of men I grew up with were open communication-wise. You could talk about whatever and really express how you're feeling. I was angry, so I expressed how I was feeling in very harsh ways sometimes. Um, but it really allowed me to be who I was and really grow into who I was and really give back to others because it was my oldest friend's father who impacted me the most. I had known them since I was 6 years old, um, and he just passed away 2 weeks ago. And till his last breath, he would give everything. I mean, he left this earth with no potential left in him, no purpose left in him. He did everything for people, and including me. I was the second son, and I just watched how he was and how he was with his family. I mean, he had the ideal family model, and mine wasn't necessarily. They weren't terrible, but they didn't stay together. And he just was the loving father and was there. I mean, he was there for me in ways, and it made me want to be like him in terms of how. So I didn't grow up with any problems with not being able to share my feelings or whatever. However, at the same time, I didn't necessarily share my feelings either because I just, kind of felt like nobody could really help me sometimes. And so, if I put reachers out and didn't get anything in response, I kept it to myself. But the way I was raised really allowed me to want to help others, even at my lowest, and it's probably especially at my lowest. I mean, going through this grief process, and I'm coming up on the 5th year, this August 7th. It really has allowed me to honor my wife by helping others because she was the same way as me. She was a servant. We both had hearts of servanthood, and she did everything for other people. We were marriage counselors, certified marriage counselors together, and so really, I didn't have a problem with masculinity. I was headstrong, but I also was compassionate. And so, through my grief process, I turned that servanthood into selflessness. However, I took time for myself and I took care of myself. And I told people, I said, they say animals are most dangerous when they're wounded. I'm extremely dangerous right now. And I'm letting you know up front, I'm dangerous. So don't come with me, no dumb stuff. And, you won't get any return. And so I was transparent and I had no problem being transparent in terms of how I was feeling. Although I got to the point where I stopped sharing with people when I saw that it was for nothing. And I was, basically throwing those seeds onto solid rock and it wasn't growing anything. However, in honoring my wife, I told her that I was going to write her book for her because she was planning on writing a book about her breast cancer battle. And so I wrote her book. It took me a lot longer than I expected, but I got it done and I honored her by releasing it last year. And I wrote it as if I was her because I knew her inside and out. I, told people at her homegoing celebration, I have my PhD in my wife. I knew everything about her, and I blasted men too. I said, some of y'all act like you're just masters over your wife. Some of you want to have your bachelor's still, and some of you are just eating paste like your kindergartners. So, and I really did. And so I wrote the book as if I was her, and was able to express myself in her feminine way, and yet still keep my masculinity no problem in terms of how I did it. Because she was a diva. So it was actually funny. That one was kind of healing. And then the second book was her second battle, which, in which she passed. And that was like walking through hell again. And one thing they say, though, is when you're walking through hell, keep going. You don't just hang out in hell and, you keep going. And so that's what I did, and finally got that one done. And the books are to minister to people who have cancer, to people who have lost a spouse, to people that were married and, some of them took, their spouse for granted. It really wrote it for both books for everybody. And so now I'm completing my third book, which is my grief journey. And that book is for everybody. The ones that who have lost somebody and struggle in their grief journey with different things. The ones who have not lost somebody and struggle in terms of how they help people or don't help people. All together. I talk to the believers, and I don't go easy on them because honestly, a lot have really, really turned people away from God in terms of some of the things they've said over time in their grief. Don't just say, "Don't worry, Jesus loves you." No, that doesn't do anything but make somebody want to turn away from it. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's basically what my grief journey's been, and I really was raised by, and God put men around me who just allowed me to want to be that kind of servant and really allowed me to speak my mind.
Thank you, Mark. I want to share a couple of things about my organization, and I'll give you guys a couple minutes to catch your breath. It'll be brief. While we dance to that music. So go ahead, Tim, go for it. So Widowhood Real Talk with Tina is a 501c3 nonprofit supporting the bereaved. We have a couple events that are coming up, and I wanted to share those with you guys and everyone that's listening. If you know someone who is a widow or a widower and they have children under the age of 18 or have special needs children, we have a program called Children of Widowhood Secret Santa. And what that is, we allow those parents to apply to our program. And then once we vet them through, we list them on our website. And not them, let me correct that. We vet the family members. It could be an uncle that's raising 2 children. It could be a widow or a widower, but the parents have passed and those children are remaining. So if they are 18 years or younger, or if there's special needs and over the age of 18, if you go to my bio and select widowhood and open to my website and then select events, there's a drop-down menu that gives you an opportunity to apply. Once those people apply, we walk them through creating an anonymous Amazon wish list, and then that wish list is placed on our website. You don't know who the people are. You don't know their names, their children. We hold that private, but we vet to make sure by special means that they are widows and widowers. And last year, we were able to bless like about 6 or 7 different families, because grief, when your spouse passes and you're left with a 2-income family on a 1-income lifestyle, it's devastating. And the holidays can be extremely stressful. So we do this. So once the list is up, then you go to our website, you select the child or in the gift, and it goes right to them. You don't know anything, but just being able to do that. So we are keeping the registration open for parents up until July 15th for more people to apply. We want to have too many and not just enough, because it's an opportunity for us to bless other people. The second event that we have coming up August 3rd through the 9th is called Walk for Love. And what Walk for Love does, sometimes when you lose a loved one, saying their name is so powerful, but you never feel like it's like Mordorf, the name that should not be mentioned. And when you say something, people get all weirded out because you're talking about somebody that's not here. So one of the other things that happens in grief, you isolate, you often don't exercise, you become very closed in. So Walk for Love, that week of August 3rd through the 9th, we ask everybody to walk 1 mile a day and then post hashtag Walk for Love, hashtag your loved one's name. Very basic scenario. It gets you out to start walking, and we've seen people walk throughout the year because they're like, oh my gosh, I need to exercise. If you want to take it to another level, we have merchandise. We have water bottles, we have travel mugs, we have t-shirts. And if you go to my website and select events, Walk for Love is right there. You can select it. You can purchase merchandise. It'll come right to you. Maybe you could not stand walking, but you want to get some merchandise. That could be your way of participating, because People say they like exercise until you start doing it, and it's a different thing altogether. So I just wanted to share that because a lot of times, everybody that I know of that I see here, we are more than what you see us on this app. Each person in on this panel talked about writing books, starting nonprofits, having multiple skills and talents, and being authors. I invite you to check out each one of these gentlemen to see the things that they do. Someone is a pastor of a church, doctorate, does public speaking. That you have a rich amount of people here in this space and also in the chat that could really be a lifeline to you and be value added. Don't sleep on that. I didn't do this just to talk. I did this and asked these people specifically because I knew the value that they could bring to this conversation and willingness to be open. Tim, the question that we were going to ask you, I feel like we beat it down. And the question you had is, how do you think grief challenges how society defines manhood? I feel like we may have covered that if you want to. If not, I have a question that wasn't on the homework for anybody that I would like to put out there. If you want to do that or your question, it's your choice, Tim.
Ask that question again.
Yes, sir. How do you think grief challenges how society defines manhood?
Ooh, challenges. It challenges a lot. I mean, I'm gonna put mine in the same perspective. How I see grief challenges. Well, it kind of challenges me on a daily basis. I just when I put it like this: when I look at the news and see how different and how confusing everything, everyday life is, and how many people just running around with so much confusion, it kind of makes me sad because the world don't have to be as ignorant as people want to put it to be. It really doesn't, and it really don't. Sometimes it don't make no sense to me. So a lot of times I will sit and meditate and just think of, okay, if I was this one person, how would I change what they're doing to make something better? And my answer always comes up: make sure that the peace in their life is wholesome and happy. Because what I do in my lifetime, or how I did in my lifetime, I was always trying to keep a smile on my face. So sometimes it's hard. But as men, we try and do the best we can, even though life sometimes slaps us in the face. But at the same time, we got to keep going because in our minds, sometimes we have to be a troubleshooter. And in that same process, we just have to hold what we can and live what we can do.
Thank you. I have a question that is not on the homework assignment. I hope I can articulate this correctly. Someone mentioned the word weaponized, and I want to circle back to that because I've heard it phrased that sometimes men are apprehensive about being transparent or vulnerable or showing themselves because they're afraid of their partner, that woman, weaponizing once that is being shown. What would you say to that comment or that statement? And that's anybody who wants to.
I think that is a common thing, and that's what when Brother James was talking about safe spaces, that becomes, you don't become a safe space for me because I've shared something with you, and then you took it and you turned it against me when I was being my most vulnerable at my most vulnerable state, and then now that makes me clam up. So I'm not going to share anything with you because you remove the safe space for me. And that is the quickest way. You want to get a man to shut down and clam up and never open up again? Take something that he told you and turn it against him. He will never talk to you again at that on that capacity. And if we're talking about couples and being married, that's what happened with my wife and I. I felt that she wasn't a safe space anymore, and then her not being a safe space for me, I became not a safe space for her, and then two safe spaces collided, non-safe spaces collided together, and all that comes out of that is destruction. You know, so we had to sit down and have a heart to heart about that, and then you throw grief on top of that, and I'm trying to share with you some emotions about something, and then you're not safe. Those are fighting words. You know what I mean? Like that will probably cause me to be like, you know what? This ain't even worth it. If I can't even grieve and you're not a safe space, that's a very dangerous combination to be in. So I'll say be mindful of that. Either party be mindful that if anybody shares anything with you and then you then turn it around and use it against them, be mindful that you're going to turn that person against you. Be mindful that they came to you in confidence and then you turned around and pretty much stabbed them in the back. So they're not going to trust you with anything. So be mindful of that. And that I'll land my plane. I'm sorry.
If I may, for what he just said, a key point when whether it's grieving or anything, when you are in tune with the person in a relationship, especially husband and wife, but it can be parent and kids, siblings, whatever. If you're not a safe place for me, no matter what I do, I'm not going to be a safe place for you. Because even though I'm trying my best to give that and I'm doing it, it's still a detrimental situation. So eventually it's going to collide. You're not going to grasp, you're going to collide. You're going to bump heads at some point. And another thing, like bro was just saying, I agree 1,000%. I think one of the panels we were on about a week ago, me and Maurice and Brother James, we spoke those same words. If you take what I say and throw it in my face, I'm completely shutting down. But another thing, too, that I would throw out as men, if we try to bring it to you and when you're pointing something out to us and we point out and say, hey, listen, just so you understand this, these are examples of you doing this. If you try to flip that into, or you doing tick for tat, no, I'm not. I promise you I'm not. Because the same way I have to be a safe place for you, I need you to receive what I'm giving you as a safe place. As I'm not being detrimental. I'm not coming at you. I'm not trying to shift blame or be the victim. I'm trying to settle a situation because if it's not good for you and it's triggering, if this is happening and you don't realize you're doing it, that's something that's going to be ongoing. So we also have to take that into mindset because like Mari said, once you throw grief on top of that, is a whirlwind of destruction.
You know, I've gotten to the point in my life now where if something's on me, I'm gonna find the answer. You know, if I have to lay on my face all night and speak to God, I'm gonna find the answer. Someone's gonna say something, I can be scrolling through and I can run across Aaron's page and he says something and I catch it. You know, that's how dedicated, that's how driven I am. Because of everything that happened in the past, that's one of the reasons why I never looked for a safe space. Because of that, now it's more like when it comes to vulnerability, I'm very strategic in who I'm vulnerable to. Because it's like now there's no more embarrassment with me. No more. Because I want freedom. Okay? I want to be free of all of this. Not saying I don't get hurt. But what I'm saying is, my wife and I was talking about this morning, that whatever the situation is, I'm very open. Now, if I share something with you and you use it against me, lesson learned. I won't be angry with you. We can continue to be friends. We can continue to be close. But now, as my sister-in-law always said, I know what shelf to put you on now. Okay? So I am a very open person. My life is an open book. Obviously, I don't tell, secrets about my life, especially my wife and all stuff like that. But when it comes to me, like when I go visit my doctor, I tell her, listen, stuff just don't feel right. And she kind of chuckled the last time I was there because I was so open, as a man. I was open with her because if there's a problem with James, I want solutions. And I'm not going to stop at nothing to get solutions. And that was one of the ways I was able to free myself from all these stigmas. Men don't cry. Are you serious? I would cry in front of you, because I look at it this way. You're going to talk about me regardless, so I might as well go ahead and be me. You're going to laugh at me regardless, so I might as well just go ahead and do it, So the whole embarrassment part has almost left me, and I'm saying this because I would never lie about what's going on with me because I don't like the feeling. Because when I think back on the whole depression and suicide making sense to me, when I think back on those days, I don't want that anymore. I don't want that anymore. And one of the reasons why that stuff was on me is because I suppressed a lot of stuff. But now I'm like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. And so I don't hold things in because I had friends of mine who passed away because of that. They wouldn't open up, and they had a lot going on. We had a very, very close friend of mine. I don't think I would ever get over this. He unalived himself. We were supposed to hook up that weekend, and I didn't hear from him. And when I got back to work, they called me in the back and said, "You need to sit down." I was like, "What's going on?" And they told me that he took his life, and I was devastated. Even talking about it now devastates me because I was looking like, what could I have done? I knew he was dealing with something. So for a long time, I blamed myself. Until I met this couple that told me, the wife said, listen, she said, James, you're not depressed. She said, you don't have low self-esteem and you don't have a poor self-image of yourself. She said, those are results of you having no understanding about life. Your idea of life is, if I show you love, you're going to show it back to me. That's what I thought. And when that wasn't happening, I got depressed. I got angry. I can show Tim love, and if Tim don't show it back to me, I'm trying to give Tim something, and he never signed up for it. You see? So I'm trying to force something out of him that he's not there because of that missing piece in my life that I was not able to admit that, hey, I never knew my father. I never knew my biological father, so I expect Walt to be that father figure for me. I did it with pastors. I got close with my pastors, and I expected them to be something that they never signed up for. And so when I stopped being angry, and like now I'm on that journey right now. So like I say, I will get on people's nerve. Because when I got something on me, trust me, Miss Tina, if I know you got the answer, I'm going to hit your inbox. Look, I'm going through this. What's the answer? That's just me. That's just how I roll. And because once I get the answer, I'm free. I'm free. So, yeah, I agree with Dr. Ball and Walt. If I share something with you and then you use it against me, okay, we can't roll in that area no more.
And every man that I know is always going to shut down when something's being thrown in their face unnecessarily. I mean, when are we as people going to start talking to each other as people? That's the main thing that I always see on a daily basis. You can sit up here and scream or say something in a different way that I'm not going to respond to. And you expect me to respond? No, I want a different answer from what you're trying to give me, but talk to me as a human being instead of a person that you think you can control or otherwise.
Yeah.
In terms of safe spaces, I feel like I thought this and said this before. My circle went from a nickel to a dime, so it decreased in size but increased in value because the people that were still there for me, the people that I could actually turn to, the people I could actually lean on, I recognized them, and it certainly wasn't as many people as I knew and all that stuff. The people that said, "I'm here for you," but then when you call them on the carpet for that, they're nowhere to be found, kind of thing. So and the people who just didn't know what to say, people that say things to try to, they want you to be better because they're uncomfortable with your pain and can't handle your pain, and so they distance themselves or they say dumb things to try to have you considered dating, that kind of thing, and I heard this from somebody that should have known better, and they said it 2 days before Christmas, 5 feet from where my wife passed, and had the nerve to say that, knowing that our marriage was one of the most amazing marriages they've ever seen, and asked me, well, didn't Tanya want you to be with somebody else? And I said to him, like, no, Tanya wanted me to be happy, and there ain't going to be anybody that's going to make me happy. And, so things like that make you have to shut people down and realize, okay, I can't talk to you. I can't talk to you. I can't, and you don't want to really talk to me. So I'm sorry that you're uncomfortable. And so if you need to walk away, that's fine. I don't need dumb stuff going on in my life anyway right now. So, you sift things out, and sometimes people do it for you and they sift you out. But yeah, it really allows you to see where your safe spaces are, and be disappointed sometimes in the people that aren't your safe space. People that you never heard from, and people that tell you to call them. They don't want to check on you. They just like, call me. Look, I'm dealing with a little bit right now. My wife was a little bit, just a minor part of my life, because I do deal with sarcasm. So, no, I'm not going to be calling you. And I turned my phone. I had my do not disturb was my best friend. So, I had to create this safe space and recognize, who I could let in and who I didn't let in, by recognizing who was a dime and who was just a nickel.
I'm kind of over the do not disturb on your phone, though, but go ahead. That's my outside voice speaking.
It's my best friend.
Rico, Aaron, and Josh, did you want to talk about the weaponizing portion?
Yeah, I'd love to share that. Because the stigma does exist, it does give us a choice to choose who we want to share it with.
Yeah.
And even if we don't have someone yet, because that world exists out there, there's people out there that can hold space for us, that can have the emotional intelligence to hold that space and let us express. And in your world now, if there is no one out there, you have to ask yourself, if you feel the need to share it with somebody, are you okay with sharing it out loud for yourself, even if they don't know how to respond? Because with my mom, she didn't really share anything about her past and her life. I was never close with my mom's side of the family because she shut us off from them. And the crazy part is you're going to carry these feelings with you all the way to your grave if you don't express it. And one thing that really stood out to me when my mom was sick is that she chose to, like maybe 3 days before she took her last breath, to express it all. She called her twin sister. She shared with her how much hatred she has for her, and they ended up having forgiveness for each other. She shared every pain that she's experienced with my dad, but she waited all the way to the end, 3 days before she took her last breath. And because the stigma does exist, when we suppress our feelings, it also affects our health too, and it affects our relationships, and it just shuts us off to the possibility of someone that can receive how we can express to them, because they're out there. Like, this is how being able to express is how I ended up being on this panel with y'all. You're out here the whole time, but without expressing in the past, I would have never met y'all here. And it really stood out to me when my mom took her last breath, or a couple days before she did, she started expressing it. So whenever we do have that chance to express, or if it's really calling to us, even if we know that they might not be able to hold that space for us and they might weaponize us, ultimately it is for us to be able to express for ourselves, even if they don't know how to respond to it. And then eventually, because you're doing it for you, you're honoring what's coming up for you, you're honoring the emotions that they've passed for like 10, 12 years, you will set yourself free. And you'll find somebody out there that will be happy to hold that space for you and have the emotional intelligence to do that for you. So being able to be the example of it and just allow yourself to shed those tears, allow yourself to express those emotions, even if they don't know how, it really gives you that freedom for yourself. And because you're an example of freedom now, people will start to see that and give them hope too.
Oh, thank you, Aaron. Very powerful. Thank you. Rico, Josh, did you want to share on that topic of people weaponizing?
Yeah, I did. I believe as 100% is a thing that it happens with men and women. It gets weaponized all the time, and I think it's a show of emotional lack of emotional maturity, right? Because they like Mara hit on this. I think it was Mara said like, hey, they are not comfortable with that, so they want to go ahead and do it and make themselves comfortable, right? That saying that misery loves company. But by the way, Mara, that nickel and dime analogy, that was chef's kiss. I loved it. But I think too, there's a double-edged sword because we as men, well, me personally, I can speak for myself only, is in that situation, I will cut those people off. And when I was younger, I was like, you know what? I'm never going to talk to you. I'm going to ghost you. That's it. But now as I get older, I see, but not expressing my feelings with John. We'll just say John hurt me, right? And I didn't tell John, hey, what you did hurt my feelings. I then start hardening my heart and taking away from that growth that we went on because now I'm getting angry and festering in like, hey, John hurt my feelings or he betrayed me. Yeah, it's guess what I tell people all the time is that's a free lesson. You now know that you can't trust John with some things, but guess what you can do? You can go tell John, hey, you hurt my feelings, and now you've lost that safe spot with me. You've lost that. And it's hard, just like respect is a thing that's earned, right? I can't trust you with there, but I'm going to tell you that so I don't fester in my heart. So I challenge you, anyone listening out there in the audience, right? If that happens, speak on it. Share your feelings. Don't stop your growth journey just because you got hurt again and you don't want to go backwards in your journey. You want to keep growing. And maybe, like we touched on earlier, is maybe that person, John in this case, didn't know that they, by gossiping and sharing that vulnerability you shared with him, was hurting you, and maybe they can learn from that. They may not be your friend anymore in that aspect, but maybe they can grow and get better at that expense.
Thank you.
The thing that got me wasn't necessarily who was within the circle. It was those that reached out to you and said, how are you doing? How can I help you? Only to weaponize that you decided to open up. At that moment in time, I'm thinking to myself, why did you even approach me? Mm-hmm. Why are you acting like you care? If your sole purpose was to be able to say, oh, well, here's an individual that's going through something, so therefore his mind is so caught up in his grief, his wife just died, so therefore he can't handle this, and this, and it's time to move him to the side. And I should have been better off not saying anything. So I don't know if it happened organically, but my circle is smaller. Mm-hmm. It is definitely smaller, and I've gotten to the point to where I'm more hesitant and reserved when people do approach me and say, how are you doing? Why do you want to know? Yeah. Because unless you've got the time and the commitment to stay throughout my response, and it's going to take more than just this answer. Are you going to walk with me? If you're not going to walk with me, and I don't mean any disrespect, if you're not going to have the courage to walk with me, If you're not going to be there side by side, then you know what? I'm okay if you just keep going and let's just say hello and let's go on with our lives, because I don't have the time or the patience to go through any more nonsense. My I will cut you off, and there's no need to discuss it, because the one person I always had in my corner, had my back, who I could be me, let my hair down, if you will, is no longer with me. And as I shared with you, Tina, my mom passed away last week.
Yeah.
And we're in the process of going to California for the services. And I didn't reach out to a lot of people because I'm just like, here's yet something else I'm going to do on my own. So for me, it was a lesson learned. There's a passage in a song that says, surrounded by strangers I thought were my friends.
And that is so. I love the way you said that, Rico, because you don't know a person's story, and you decide to get in this space. And I say this to a lot of people, like, when you hear me say I go hard for men, but at the same time, if you're not willing to hear their story, you don't know their background, you don't know what was going on with them, but you decide to get in that space, all you're going to do is end up damaging a person even more because you're not sincere. They're coming from a sincere space because they lost someone who was so close to them. Now here you come, claim that you have the answer, but do you have the patience? Do you have the endurance? Do you have the perseverance to actually stand in that space with them when they're going through their hard times? Because they're not going to respond to grief like you will. Everybody's different. That's why when you asked the question earlier, Miss Tina, I said perseverance, because everything that I'm hearing, I fell down. I fell down so many times, and I have no choice but to get back up. I made bad decisions. I made decisions that I regret to this day. So many different things, but it wasn't so much I was tough and I got through it. I just had to get through it, I had to go through it because there were so many other men around me that didn't necessarily directly show me, but by me watching them, I was able to get through the things that I was getting through. So when you come into a man's space and you say that you're gonna be his friend, or you're gonna, I understand. I go back to what Mara said. Just be there. Sometimes just don't talk. Right. Just sit, because you don't really know what I'm feeling right now. You don't know how I'm going to respond, because I had somebody that was real close to me and we were stuck like glue. So if you've never been through that, it's hard for you to be. And I understand exactly what Rico is talking about. I understand exactly what he's talking about, because when you've been done like that for so many times, and here they come again. Look, just stop. Just stop. So before you say you know somebody, before you try to get in this space, make sure you have the patience and the wherewithal to stand with them when they're going through their grief.
Thank you. So we didn't talk about the ending time, but I kind of wrap up at 9:00 because girl got to get up early for the gym in the morning. So I know y'all over this. Look, we almost there. I'm gonna tell y'all that right now, because my doctor, I'd be like, no, we gonna talk next week, because I know.
It's funny. It's so funny you said that, because I was like, I'm sitting over here, and today is wife's birthday, but she had said I'll let you go on. So, and we're finna rush out, getting ready to go to.
We about to be done. We about to be done.
Yeah. Happy birthday, player.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Hey, tell her happy birthday.
To everyone in the comments, if you felt like this conversation was helpful for you, if you would share a purple heart, because purple my favorite color. Drop a purple heart in the comments if this conversation was helpful, insightful, enlightening, if you learned something you never knew before, gain some understanding. In these final moments as we close out, I would ask each of these amazing men, as we close out, each one of you to share one message you give to a grieving man who feels completely alone or or do not know what to do, what to share with your story for them?
Could I? Do you mind? You guys mind if I go first?
We would prefer you
You
do.
better go first.
Yeah.
There you go. Do your thing.
It's I want first and foremost, thank you, Tina, for having this. I absolutely enjoyed it. It's needed. And even though I come up as a panelist to give advice and support to others, it's so much support and advice to myself that I receive. Being able to speak it when we're talking about it, it helps. It's like we're purging our body. It's like we're purging ourselves. And being able to talk about your tragedies and traumas actually helps you get past them. That's a process of knowing that you're going through the healing process, because there's definitely a difference in being healed and healing. And both processes are okay. So we need to identify that. But really quickly, today I was just going back through preparing to make sure I had all of my notes and everything that I wanted to say written down. And I ran across this thing from Neo that he said his mom taught him. And I would like to read this to you really quick. It says, we need to teach and learn emotions are not weaknesses. If it feels good, smile, laugh. If it hurts, cry. And don't be ashamed for you to do either one at any given time, because God gives you emotions for a reason. It's like having a hammer. It has like having a box full of tools and only using a hammer. You need a screwdriver, but you're using a hammer. For every job, just picking up the hammer won't work. You need to screw something, you need something else. That's the way a lot of our little boys are raised. We can't cry. We can't be weak, and we can't be soft. The only emotion that matters is anger. And that's how a lot of our boys deal with things. We should be teaching them that every emotion that you possess was given to you for a reason. So it's simply a matter of using the right tool for the right job. Don't let your emotions control you. You control your emotions. People, emotions aren't a bad thing. Crying is good. You know, being emotional is good. It's okay. Have those moments, release them. Don't try to fix every situation with a hammer, because sometimes we're going to need a screwdriver. So thank you again, Tina. Thank you all, my brothers on here. I love you all. All you guys who I'm not following, please follow me. I'll follow you back. And I just look to us, coming together, spreading this word more. And I really, really hope it doesn't end because it's the 30th, because this is something that we need to carry on each and every day. So
Right.
I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Y'all have an amazing night. Thank you again,
You as
team.
well.
Stay
I'll talk to
peaceful,
y'all
bro.
soon.
As you guys fight for who's next, I will put this live on my YouTube channel. So if there's somebody that wanted to listen to the conversation, didn't have an opportunity, I will post it there by Saturday. Any closing words? Something you want to share to a man that's grieving in the comments or out on the patio?
Yeah. One thing we have been accused of is never asking for directions. When we're going somewhere, we get a little lost or whatever, we don't tend to ask for directions. At least that's what they always say. Men don't ask for directions when we're going somewhere. This is one time where we really need to ask for directions. And what I mean by that is, if you were going on a tour somewhere, going to another country or whatever, if you don't have any clue about it, the best thing you can do is get a tour guide. Tour guide can tell you where to go and all of that, but it's still going to be your own experience. It's not their experience, it's your experience. And the same is here too. This is a Greek journey we're on, and having somebody there that knows how to handle it, at least for the most part, to kind of guide you through some of the things. And you're wondering, like, I'm completely out of my mind, and they're there to tell you, yep, and that's okay. Just the little things that can help guide you through your journey, yet you're still going to have your own experience. They're not there to tell you what to do. They're not there to, make everything better, because they can. But they're there to tell you, how they maneuver through it. It might not be how you maneuver through it. It most likely won't be. But to make sure you find people and surround yourself with them. It's not going to necessarily be your friends and family. It most likely it will not be unless they lost somebody. But in order to get through it, make sure, as somebody who just lost, had lost a spouse or whatever, that you do find your way to somewhere like a group like this where men can help you and understand that whatever you're going through and however you're handling it, it makes sense to us, even if that's not how we're handling it. Because grief is just, it's not a structured way. It's not a mountain climb. It's an obstacle course. And sometimes you're going to trip and fall over it. And, next time you go, you might trip over and fall over it again. But just understanding what you're going through, having somebody who can at least understand the pain, even though if it's not the same pain as yours.
Thank you.
Well, I would say there's a couple of things. And one thing, if you're in my circle and you come to me, I would definitely say let's go out into the community, because what I've learned is when you change people's norm, when you give them something else to look at and not look at their own situations, and they see that some things or some other things are going on, that it gives them a different perspective, right? So I would say, hey, let's go over here to the tent community. Let's go over here to the people that live under the bridge. Let's go over here to the food bank, and let's just sit down and talk. And that gives people an opportunity, because it's nothing else like having a space where you don't have to think about it. I don't want to have to think about it. So being able to put it down somewhere and go and give somebody else something that you don't think that you have is actually re-energizing. You'll realize, like, wow, I got more in me than I realized that I had. So I would suggest that, and that was one of the young ladies in the comments. She just put that comment that somebody that she's dealing with is angry. He's mad because he lost his dad. Take them out into the community and just take them out and just change the environment, change the mindset. Because what happens is grief is like a record. It has this, you just follow the pattern around, right? It just goes around. So in order to break that pattern up, you got to put a scratch in that album so it can jump up and not get caught in the same pattern, in the same rut. So do something that is different, that is going to allow you to be able to not carry it. And I personally, when people come to, I don't even talk about it unless you want to talk about it. I'm talking about something else. But find something that allows you to be able to give, even though you don't think you have it.
Thank you.
I got
Go ahead, Tim. Go ahead.
I ain't mean to cut you off.
You good.
I'm gonna get out of here myself. I got a doctor's appointment in the morning. One thing I was gonna say was, there's a whole lot of men out here that don't have somebody to run across or confide in or come across because of how their mindset may be at that time. And I'm here to tell y'all, don't be afraid to reach out to somebody if you feel in a certain type of way. All us men up here and whoever you may know that you may trust wholeheartedly, reach out to them. Give them a text. How you doing? You don't have to go through things by yourself. We are too sophisticated of a man not to do that. Now, I've always ended somebody else's life with this, but make sure you reach out to somebody. It could be me, it could be anybody. Tell them what you're going through. You can find help and peacefulness in somebody else's thoughts to where you don't have to go through it. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you.
Y'all have a good night.
You too.
It was a pleasure, Tim.
Miss Tina, and like I said, I'm gonna get something out of everything, because I'm intentional about it, and I gotten so much out of tonight. The just men who I haven't met poured into me as I poured into them, and it was a beautiful night. As I said earlier, as I continue to grow, as I continue to move forward, I continue to learn stuff. I never ever had a discussion about the passing of my grandmother. Never had a discussion with anybody as to how I felt. And I felt like it was a privilege for me to carry that with me. And even though it hurts, even now, and she's been gone a long time, but still, like I said, I believe a part of me that died. But Miss Tina, you liberated me one night. I came on your live and I told my story about my grandmother. And you told me, you said, James, you don't supposed to get over it. It's something that you carry. And then you showed me how to carry it. And it was then that night you freed me. I'm just being honest. I had a dream one night. Dr. Ball was in that dream. The next night, he reached out to me. He said, hey, man, for some reason, God laid it on my heart to reach out to you. And I was like, wow. And I don't take stuff like that for granted. I say this. All of us are carrying something, but we're still moving forward. Every day is another step. It hurts, it's painful, but we continue to move. Our loved ones who have gone on can look back and say, listen, he's still moving forward. He's in pain, he suffers, but he continues to move. That says a lot about the strength and the strong man that you are. It hurts. Obviously it hurts. But be careful who you allow in your circle. And Mar, I love how you said it. When someone comes to you, you're not about any nonsense anymore. And I'm in that same boat. If you're really serious, then don't bring any nonsense, because we don't have time for that anymore.
Yeah.
And so, but every day you're moving forward. Every day is another step. So I would encourage you, and I always tell men this all the time: you're better than you think you are. And even though we're hurting, even though we're frustrated, even though there's a part of us that lack the understanding, but we're gonna get it. But we continue to move. That says a lot about us. That says a lot about how strong we are. That says a lot about our resilience, because we've been knocked down so many times, and yet here we are. We're getting back up on our feet again, and we continue to walk. Yes, you're gonna have to walk with that, carrying that weight on your shoulder, but you're still moving. There are spaces that you have in your life. You don't have to share it with everybody. You don't have to make everybody your safe space. You have that right, because that's your time. That's the thing that you have the most. But that love I have for my grandmother, that's my space. And it's not a burden to carry, because like you said, Miss Tina, it's gonna always be with you, James. And so that was me saying, okay, now when I talk about it now, I don't have to cry, because I got very emotional. Even that night I was on your live, I got very emotional, because I never shared my relationship with her, with nobody except my wife, So I just want to encourage all the men on here. It is indeed a pleasure to meet all of you. It's indeed a pleasure. And just keep going, brothers. We got this.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else?
I'll go next.
Also, oh, you're good.
You sure? Okay.
Yeah.
There's three things I wanted to say. I love quotes. So I love sharing quotes. It's like a foundation for me. One of the first quotes, there's three quotes I want to share. The first one is, when someone starts going through the grieving process, feelings buried alive never die. Feelings buried alive never die. They're going to show up in your body. They're going to show up in your life experiences. They're going to show up in your relationships, good or bad. And when it comes to healing through grief, or being healed through grief, it goes along with this quote here, is that healing or being healed doesn't take time. It takes courage, and courage collapses time. Because we have to have massive, massive courage to feel through that grief, to feel through that pain, to feel through that anger, everything with grief. And the last part is, especially with us, or with men, we can be seen as weak when we feel our emotions or when we express it. So the last quote that I love is, it takes massive strength to feel your weakness. Right. Massive strength to feel your weakness, which allows you to become that example. It allows us to become that example, to feel through it and still be seen as strong in our masculine, even while we're feeling our weakness.
Right.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
All right, so what I was going to say is thank you all for sharing. And I know that we just barely met. I really feel comforted and humbled to you guys share. Something I tell a lot of people is in order for us to heal, right, and everyone's journey is different on how they come across that. It could take longer, it takes shorter, right? But I always tell people as men, right, and even society today, some women, now we don't have time to feel. The world doesn't allow us to have time to feel. But in order to heal, you have to feel whatever that is, anger, sadness, joy. Just feel it, embrace it. But I tell people, hey, you live in there for as much as you have to do to deal it. In order to, when you feel, in order to deal with it, you have to feel. And until you start feeling your emotions and you start learning what those emotions mean and who you are as a person, right? That's where you can start to heal. So I always tell people, like, you got to, in order to heal, you have to deal with your feelings, feel, deal, and heal. And you have to. And I think it's a lot, as me as growing up as a man, we're told not to feel. And we touched that a million times on here. But I just encourage and challenge anyone listening, man, woman, just feel what you're going through right now and learn and grow. And that's how you deal in order to heal. And I really appreciate you guys listening to me. And I'm humbled. Tina, thank you. This is amazing.
Yep. Yep.
Did everybody go? Anybody else want to say anything before we wrap up?
Just to say thank you, Tina. I think I've shared this with you. I've shared it on my lives, and one of my homework questions was the therapy question. But I'm going to say it again. I have gotten more help by not just participating in some of your panels, but some of the panels that you host. So I appreciate you allowing this space and allowing us to be ourselves and to be able to come on. And gentlemen, I thank all of you for trusting us with your stories and with your pain. And for anyone out there that's going through it, I've learned to ask God not to help me avoid the storm, but to be with me and guide me through the storm.
I want to say thank you
That's good.
for being brave enough to be transparent. Thank you for trusting this safe space. Thank you for everyone in the comments being respectful. And I'm just grateful for this. Dr. Ball, could you close us out in prayer, please?
Father, you are great and mighty, and we just thank you for this day. We thank you for the heart of Tina who saw a need and put it in place and put it in the atmosphere that the need to be met through the men that's in this panel. Now, Father God, I lift up each and every person in this panel. Father God, I pray you touch us where we are. I pray you continually heal our broken hearts, Father God. Only fill us to capacity with your grace and your mercy, Father. Even those who are sitting on the porch, Father God. We know that there is a call for us to be men, but Father God, we want to be godly men. We want to be godly examples. That we need to lay aside the weight and sin that easily besets us, Father God, and give you our yoke and take your yoke because it's light and easy. Now I pray right now, Father God, just cover and keep us, lead us and guide us into all truth. It is in the matchless name of Jesus we pray. Amen, amen, and amen.
Amen. Amen.
Amen. Good night.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Everyone
you
have
all.
a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.